Hello students, myself Sanjay Bhardwaj, Assistant Professor, Jagannath Institute of Education, JIMS, Tech, Greater Noida. Today's topic is approaches of counseling. As we know that the counseling process is or the approaches is divided into three school of thoughts. First is directive or counselor centered or prescriptive counseling. Number two, non-directive or client-centered or permissive counseling. Third, eclectic counseling. What is directive counseling or the counselor-centered counseling? The chief advocate of this school is E. G. Williamson of the University of Minnesota. Counselor-centered counseling revolves around the counselor. The counselor tries to establish good relationship through the friendship and assistance. The counselor is very active and he expresses his ideas and attitudes independently. He evaluates the expression of the client. The counselor directs thinking by informing, explaining, interpreting, and advising. Hence, according to this school of thought, the counselor owns entire responsibility of solving client's problem. The counselor assumes the major responsibility of solving the problem. The basic assumptions of counseling. Basic assumptions of directive counseling. According to Andrew and Willie, the following can be the basic assumptions of directive counseling. Competency in giving advice. The counselor possesses the best training, experience, and information. He is more competent to provide an advice to solve the problem. Counseling is an intellectual process. Any client's intellectual capability is not destroyed as a result of his maladjustment. Hence, counseling is primarily an intellectual process. It stresses upon the intellectual aspects of a person instead of his emotional aspects of the personality. Counseling objectives as problem solving situations. The objectives of counseling are achieved through problem solving situations. Client's incapability of solving the process. The counselor assumes that the client does not possess the capability for solving the problem always. And one more thing is Williamson and Darley has also mentioned the 6 steps of counseling process. First is analysis. Analysis is the procedure in which facts are collected, and number two, synthesis. In this step, the collected information is organized. Third, diagnosis. In this step, The reasons responsibility for the problems are sorted out. Prognosis. The statement regarding the use of diagnosis is known as prognosis. Fifth is counseling. The steps taken by the counselor and the client for adjustment constitute this step. Follows up or follow up. The step includes the evaluation of effectiveness of counseling services or efforts to help the pupil in solving his new problems. And characteristics, limitations, and advantages are also associated with the directive counseling. The next is the characteristics of directive counseling. The counselor plays a vital role in the process. It gives advice to the client. In this process, the focal point is the problem, not the person. The client is subordinate or to the counselor, not at par. The methods used in this counseling are direct, persuasive, and explanatory. Counseling stresses more on the person's intellectual aspect than the emotional aspect of his personality. Advantages of directive counseling. This method is useful from the time consumption viewpoint. It saves a time. In this type of counseling, there is more focus on the problem and less on the person. The counselor can look the client directly. Counseling focuses more on the intellectual aspect of the person than his emotional aspect or the personality. In the, in the process, the counselor becomes rapidly available to help the client, which makes the client very happy. It is time saving and economical. It gives happiness to the counselee as he gets a solution to his problem. Emphasis is on the intellectual rather than emotional aspect. These are the advantages of the directive counseling, and there are limitations of directive counseling. In this process, the client is more dependent. He is also unable to solve the new problems of maladjustment. As the client is never independent of the counselor, it is not an effective and best guidance unless and until a person does not develop some attitudes through experiences. He cannot make any decision himself. This type of guidance always lacks such experience and development of attitudes. The counselor feels in saving the client to commit and mistakes in future. There is scarcity of information regarding the pupil, which creates the possibility of wrong counseling, and demerits. It kills the initiative, and it makes uh, him helpless. Means this process makes the client helpless. It does not guide counseling to be efficient and confident always. It is an undemocratic. It with dependent. These were the few points related to the meaning of the directive counseling, assumptions, main steps, characteristics, advantages, limitations, and demerits. I hope you can understand very clear about the directive counseling. Thank you very much.